Wouldn't know what to do. My son get a murder charge, bro. Like, I gotta stop him from crashing out, bro. Like,
Right now, the hip-hop world is watching closely as Boosie Badass's son, Tootie Raw, finds himself at the center of serious allegations involving threats toward Kodak Black. This isn't internet talk that fades away in a week. This is real life, real charges, and real consequences. So make sure you watch this entire video because the full story is deeper and more dangerous than most people understand. It all starts with the tension between Boosie Badass and Kodak Black, two artists who once shared mutual respect. Things began to shift when Kodak Black agreed to work with Tekashi 6ix9ine, a move that shocked many people in hip-hop. Tekashi's history as a known snitch made him one of the most hated figures in rap culture, and Kodak accepting $1 million to collaborate with him didn't sit right with a lot of artists. Boosie Badass took it personally, not just as a rapper, but as someone who has always spoken strongly about street rules and loyalty. When Boosie found out the song was real, he reportedly blocked Kodak and said he lost respect for him, saying some lines should never be crossed, no matter how much money is involved. Kodak Black didn't see it the same way. From his point of view, business is business, and $1 million is $1 million. He made it clear in interviews that he didn't feel connected to Tekashi's past and didn't feel responsible for upholding street politics that weren't his problem.
And all about to do a song with a nigga who, like, I don't even know the niggas he told on.
Went in on
and I ain't even from over there. Niggas are some shit like, nigga, that's y'all rap. I know only nigga squeeze this nigga out some cheese, homie. Yeah. I know so do some shit like, y'all ain't finna do nothing. Y'all ain't even squeeze a nigga out some winning.
That mindset split the culture right down the middle. Some people respected Kodak's honesty, while others felt he sold out everything rap stood for. That divide planted the seeds for what would later explode into something far more serious. Fast forward to 2024 and things start to spiral. Kodak Black drops a diss aimed at Boosie Badass, and the timing couldn't have been worse. It came right before Boosie had to deal with court issues, which many felt was intentional. The song took personal shots, questioning Boosie's relevance, his past, and even his character. Boosie fired back online with harsh words, calling Kodak a crackhead, clowning his career, and questioning his credibility. It wasn't just rap talk anymore. It was personal, and everyone could feel that this wasn't going to end quietly. This is where Boosie's son Tootie Raw enters the picture, and this is where things turn dangerous. Tootie Raw was already dealing with serious federal weapons charges, including possession of sawed-off weapons, machine guns, and silencers. These are not minor charges. These are the kind of cases that can lead to decades behind bars.
now that you get older, you be like, bro, like, how the f you 40 years old still gotta look over your shoulder, you know, from your past. That's a f***ed up feeling. When you gotta go especially when you go in your city, you gotta look everywhere over your shoulder. Like, that shit wasn't worth it. The respect you got for anything you did ain't worth you being a older man looking over your motherfucking shoulder.
That's right.
Instead of staying low and focusing on his legal situation, Tootie jumped straight into the beef, posting messages online that many saw as direct threats. He spoke about being in the streets for real, being ready for war, and not posting pictures of what he had. To people familiar with street language, those weren't just words, they were warnings. And when those messages started circulating, law enforcement and the hip-hop community both took notice. This wasn't someone talking tough for attention. This was someone already facing federal time, acting like he had nothing to lose. The situation got even worse when Lil Crick, who is connected to Kodak Black's circle, became involved. Lil Crick reportedly shared messages that showed Tootie Raw had been sending threats for months, going back to 2023. These weren't one-time angry messages, they showed a pattern. In some of the messages, Tootie talked about wanting to catch a rapper, wanting to shoot someone, and even said he wanted to go viral for it. That right there is what made a lot of people step back and say this is no longer just rap beef. This is someone chasing clout through violence. You have to understand the pressure Tootie Raw lives under. Being the son of Boosie Badass comes with expectations, judgment, and constant comparisons. Many people look at him and assume he grew up privileged, protected by his father's money and fame. Online, he's been called soft, fake, and someone who never had to struggle. That kind of talk eats at a person, especially someone trying to prove they're tough in a culture that values street credibility so heavily. At the same time, Boosie Badass has spoken openly about trying to keep his kids away from the life that nearly destroyed him. He's talked about the pain of always looking over his shoulder, losing friends, and realizing later in life that the respect wasn't worth it. But for Tootie, that protection may feel like doubt, like people don't believe in him. And when a young man feels underestimated, disrespected, and embarrassed online, bad decisions can follow. What makes this situation even more serious is the legal side. Federal prosecutors don't play around. Every message, every post, every threat can be used as evidence. Making threats while out on bond can lead to bond being revoked and even more charges added. From a legal point of view, it paints a picture of someone who is dangerous and unwilling to follow the rules. That's the worst image you can give the court when you're already facing heavy time. This is why people are so worried. This isn't about defending Boosie Badass's name anymore. This isn't about Kodak Black's diss record. This is about a young man who seems ready to throw his entire future away just to prove a point. Someone talking about making an example out of a rapper, not for safety but for fame, is a clear sign of how twisted the situation has become. As this story continues to unfold, the hip-hop world is left asking hard questions. How did we get to a place where violence is still seen as proof of realness? Why do young men feel like they need to crash out to earn respect? And how many more stories like this will we see before something changes? Make sure you keep watching till the end, because what happens next in this situation could change multiple lives forever. Boosie Badass has already said that the idea of his son catching a murder charge scares him more than anything. As a father, he understands exactly where that road leads. He's lived it, and the pain in his voice shows that this isn't entertainment for him. This is his real life, his family, and his biggest fear playing out in public. At the end of the day, this situation is bigger than Boosie Badass, Kodak Black, Tootie Raw, or Lil Crick. It's a reflection of a culture that still ties respect to violence and mistakes attention for approval. The real tragedy would be if someone actually gets hurt before anyone learns from this. So the real question is whether Tootie Raw will step back before it's too late, or if this story ends the way too many others already have. Picking up from where we left off, the tension around this situation keeps getting heavier the more you look at it. Every move Tootie Raw makes seems to pull him deeper into a hole that's already hard to escape. What makes people nervous is that this isn't someone speaking out of anger for one night and then calming down. This looks like a long buildup of frustration, pride, and the need to be seen as someone not to play with. And when that mindset mixes with access to weapons and an active federal case, the outcome is rarely good. That's why you have to stay locked in till the end, because the full picture shows how close this is to becoming irreversible. A lot of people forget that Boosie Badass himself has warned countless times about the price of street life. He's talked about prison, paranoia, and the regret that comes with surviving while others don't. He's even admitted that the respect he gained wasn't worth it, the constant fear and loss. Hearing him now speak as a father hits different, because this isn't a lesson from the past, it's a crisis in the present. When Boosie says he doesn't know what he would do if his son caught a murder charge, that's not rap talk. That's real fear from someone who knows exactly how the system works. Meanwhile, Kodak Black seems to be moving on his own wave, brushing off the seriousness of the situation publicly, but anyone paying attention knows this kind of tension doesn't just disappear. Even if Kodak isn't directly responding, the people around him are watching closely. When names like Lil Crick start getting involved, it adds more fuel to the fire. Circles overlap, egos get involved, and suddenly what started as words online turns into real-world movement. That's how things escalate fast without warning. What stands out the most is the way social media plays a role in pushing situations further than they need to go. Every post becomes a performance. Every threat becomes content. Tootie Raw talking about going viral for violence shows how dangerous this mindset is. When someone starts thinking about how an act will look online instead of what it will cost them in real life, that's when tragedy usually follows. Prison time, lost freedom, and broken families don't trend, but the act that leads there does. There's also the issue of identity. Being Boosie Badass's son means Tootie never really got the chance to be judged on his own terms. People already made up their minds before he ever spoke. Some expected greatness, others expected failure, and many expected him to fall into the same patterns as his father. Living under that shadow can mess with a person's head, especially when they feel like respect isn't being given, only taken.
Boosie wasn't about to let that slide. He jumped straight on Twitter and went off, letting everyone see just how angry and hurt he really was. One of his first tweets said Kodak waited until the day before he had to go to court to drop a weak diss song, calling him a clout-chasing crackhead and saying he knew exactly what Boosie had going on. Right away, Boosie calling Kodak a crackhead was about as disrespectful as it gets in hip-hop. But Boosie didn't stop there. He kept going, saying, "When's the last time anybody said put on that new Kodak song?" laughing at his music and saying his career was over. He went after Kodak's looks, his music, and his relevance, saying the only time Kodak gets attention is when he mentions him or NBA YoungBoy. Those weren't light jabs. Those were personal attacks meant to embarrass and disrespect. Then, Boosie took it even further, painting a picture of Kodak sitting by the phone like Pookie from New Jack City, high and waiting for bad news about Boosie's court case. That image was meant to hit deep, suggesting Kodak was wishing jail or worse on him. The most serious line came when Boosie said one thing that wouldn't happen is him checking PC, meaning protective custody. In street terms, that's a direct shot at someone's toughness and credibility. He was basically saying that unlike Kodak, he wouldn't need protection in prison. To top it off, Boosie added the hashtag CCC, standing for Clout Chasing Crackhead, creating a whole label just to disrespect Kodak. That alone showed how angry and disappointed Boosie really was, because this wasn't just rap talk anymore. This was years of built-up feelings coming out at once. And this is where we have to talk about the real turning point in the story, Boosie's son, Tootie Raw. This is the same young man who had already been arrested on serious federal weapons charges that sounded like something straight out of a video game. We're talking about possession of a sawed-off shotgun, a sawed-off rifle, a machine gun, a dangerous weapon, a silencer, and willful obstruction of law enforcement officers. These are not small charges. These are federal charges that can put someone away for decades, not a few years. This isn't a situation where you just get probation or a light sentence. Federal weapons cases come with mandatory time that judges can't even lower if they want to. Instead of laying low, hiring strong lawyers and staying quiet while fighting his case, Tootie decided to jump headfirst into his father's beef. That's crash-out behavior at its highest level. He started posting on Instagram saying he's really in the streets, telling people to ask about him, saying he would put the belt down, and claiming he's ready to go to war with anyone against him. Those words weren't just tough talk. That was a direct threat of violence while he was already out on federal bond. In street language, saying you'll put the belt down means putting someone in a coffin. Saying he doesn't have pictures means he's not posting evidence of weapons online. And saying we on y'all means anyone connected to the situation is a target. What made it worse is that Tootie has been trying to prove his street credibility for years. People in his comments laughed at him, calling him soft, saying he's just Boosie's privileged son who never had to struggle. That kind of disrespect eats away at someone who's desperate to be taken seriously, especially when they feel like nobody believes they're really built for that life.
A bit suspenseful, but here's the truth that doesn't get said enough. Proving you're tough to people who already decided they don't respect you is a losing game. No matter how far you go, it will never be enough. The streets don't clap when you crash out. They watch, gossip, and move on while you sit in a cell dealing with consequences alone. That's the part nobody posts about, and that's the part Boosie is desperately trying to keep his son from experiencing. From a legal standpoint, things look even worse the longer this goes on. Federal cases move slow, but they are patient and thorough. Prosecutors don't need drama, they need patterns, and right now the pattern is clear. Threats, weapons, public statements, and a refusal to chill while on bond all paint a picture that no defense lawyer wants to fight. Judges don't care about rap beef or family pride. They care about public safety, and this situation checks all the boxes they worry about most.
What makes this even more painful is that 2D Raw has options that most kids from the streets never get. Access to money, connections, and a platform could be used to build something real and lasting. Instead, that same platform is being used to document a possible downfall in real time. History shows us how this usually ends, and it's never with applause or respect. As the days go on, people are watching closely to see who steps in, if anyone does. Will Boosie Badass be able to pull his son back before it's too late, or will pride get in the way? Will law enforcement step in before something irreversible happens, or only after? And will the hip-hop community finally stop treating situations like this as entertainment when real lives are at stake? At the center of it all is a young man standing at a crossroads. One path leads to growth, accountability, and a chance to break the cycle his father barely survived. The other leads straight into the system, where tough talk doesn't mean anything and mistakes follow you for life. That choice is being made in real time, one post, one message, one decision at a time. This story isn't finished yet, and that's what makes it so unsettling. Everyone involved still has time to step back, but time is running out. If this turns physical, there's no deleting it, no apology post that can undo it. That's why it's important to really understand what's happening here, instead of just reacting to clips and headlines. In the end, this isn't about who won a diss or who looked tougher online. It's about whether another young life gets added to the long list of wasted potential in hip-hop culture. The hope is that someone listens before it's too late, because once that line is crossed, there's no coming back. Stay tuned, stay aware, and watch how this unfolds, because the outcome will say a lot about where the culture is headed next. As more time passes, the silence around this situation feels louder than any diss track or post ever could. People are watching every move, every like, every story, trying to read between the lines to see what might happen next. That kind of attention adds pressure, especially on someone already feeling like they have something to prove. When you're constantly being watched, it's easy to start performing instead of thinking, and that's when bad choices get locked in. That's why it's important to stay with this story till the very end, because what looks quiet on the surface can still be boiling underneath. One thing that keeps coming up is how fast things can change once law enforcement gets more involved. When federal agents feel like a situation could turn violent, they don't wait for something bad to happen. They watch, they document, and they build. Every message 2D Raw sent, every screenshot that surfaced, every public statement becomes part of a bigger picture. Even things posted months ago don't disappear. They come back at the worst possible time, usually in a courtroom where context doesn't matter nearly as much as facts. For Boosie Badass, this is a nightmare playing out in real time. As a rapper, he's dealt with beef, jail, and controversy his whole life. Keep watching till the end, because the way this story ends will be a reflection of the choices being made right now, and those choices matter more than any words ever could.